All right, so to start, my name is Justin Moran, and today we'll be talking about improving the on-call experience using Jupyter Notebooks. Oops, that is not working. Where's my, there we go, perfect. All right, so who am I? So I'm a senior software engineer at Microsoft. I work on the Azure Data Studio LifeSite Tools team, building tools for our LifeSite engineers. Please feel free to send any questions you have to me through any of these contact methods. Follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. So what is LifeSite? LifeSite is Microsoft's incident response to any event in production that results from an impact to customers, such as site outage, latency increase, feature availability, or brand impacts. My team is specifically focused on building tools and experiences within Azure Data Studio for our incident response teams, internal and external customers. So what is the dream incident response experience? Well, the dream experience is one you never have to respond to automation. Either because an issue doesn't occur or an issue has occurred, but the system has automatically handled it for you. But we're not going to be talking about this today. Instead, we're going to be talking about the best incident response experience you can have. The best experience is having documentation around an issue and being able to resolve it quickly without having to do significant research or additional documentation after the fact. Unfortunately, the majority of your incidents typically are not like this. Instead, they look something like this. An incident starts with receiving notification, possibly from a monitor or customer reporting. From there, they usually check the documentation as a starting point. If there's no documentation, then the issue will need to be researched and how to mitigate it and to understand it as well. From there, the issue will then be documented with its cause and solution. It'll be resolved. And hopefully at some point, the team will review that incident to understand what caused it and how to rectify it in the future. What's different between these two experiences? Well, the mitigation experience has been extended due to needing to research an issue prior to mitigating it. In addition, the incident will need to be documented after that mitigation. This means that the system and customer impact lasts longer, which negatively impacts customer satisfaction and the company's bottom line. What happens when you add a new person to a team? Well, adding a new person extends that process even further. That new responder will check their documentation as usual. They'll then escalate to a senior responder since they're unable to handle it on their own. After that, those two will sync up to have a communication, maybe through a phone call or a chat. They may check the documentation a second time just to make sure that nothing got missed. From there, they may research that issue further. They'll finally mitigate the issue, document what happened, resolve the issue, and then lastly, again, the team will hopefully review it at the end. So what's different in this case with a new person versus the best case scenario? Well, a new person typically leans on their senior responder until they have enough experience to resolve the issues independently. In addition, the time between the notification and mitigation has been extended even further from our best case experience. Once again, this negatively impacts the customer and the company negatively. So what can we do to solve this? Jupyter Notebooks, of course. So how did Jupyter Notebooks improve the experience? Well, documentation is integrated directly into incident mitigation. The code, documentation, and results are saved in a single document with source control as opposed to separate systems. In addition, the documentation becomes a living document that is constantly updated and improved with each use. Post-mortem and follow-up reviews now have detailed logs for each individual incident. And with better documentation comes faster ramp up for new responders, which improves the overall experience for everyone. So, what are Jupyter Notebooks? Well, Jupyter Notebooks are documents that allow notes, executable code, and code results to live in a single place. The following languages are currently supported, with KQL coming very soon. They have other use cases beyond incident response, but we won't be talking about those today. So where can you use Jupyter Notebooks? Well, the notebooks are supported in both web and native applications. So regardless of your operating system, there is a technology that will allow you to use notebooks for your incident response. Azure Data Studio in particular is provided free by Microsoft, and it is cross-platform, which is what we'll be demoing today. So let's go ahead and jump into a demo and kind of see what it looks like. So we're going to start with how to get set up with Azure Data Studio. So to download Azure Data Studio, we're just going to go to aka.ms/Azure Data Studio. Once we're here, we have all the documentation for using the application provided by Microsoft. To install it, we're going to click on this download and install link. And from here, we'll have different options for installing depending on our platform, as well as our specific installation process. Once you follow those steps and install it, it's going to look something like this. Let me open that up for us. So once we're here, let's go ahead and see what it looks like using notebooks. So we'll start with creating a new notebook. So File, New Notebook. And we'll do something simple. How about a Python app? So we'll change our language. This is a notebook kernel. So we're going to change our language down to Python 3. And you can see it switching it for us. Hopefully soon, maybe. There we go. That took a little minute. All right, so let's start with just some notes. What are we doing? So we're going to create a cell, text cell, and we're going to say create Python app to print hello world. And as you can see, it's actually showing us a preview of what the text is going to look like. And in addition, this supports Markdown. So we can go ahead and put some utilities on there. And now we see that it's showing up as code. Awesome. So we just click out of that. That automatically saves it for us. And there's our text cell. So now we need a code cell because we want to print hello world. So let's go new cell. It's going to be a code cell this time. Oops, we actually want it to be below. So I'm going to delete this one, click on here, and click this plus. Nope, click on this one. There we go. Insert code cell below. Click that. And now we can just say print hello world. Awesome. And we can go ahead and execute that code. And as you can see, the results are shown directly in the notebook. So I have my documentation, my code, and my results all in a single place. All right. So from here, we're going to move on to what it looks like with incident response. So today we're going to be supporting a e-commerce platform application built by our .NET Core 3 team. Let me show you what that looks like. Here we are. Awesome. So e-commerce, it's got some photos. We have baskets. We have a login system, and we're able to purchase items. So today, I'm going to be supporting this, but I'm going to be a new person. So I don't know the system. I don't know the database structure. I don't know foreign keys and how things relate. I don't even know how the code system works. But I do have my notebooks, and my notebooks are going to help me resolve these problems. So our marketing team has let us know they're doing a huge sales event, which means we're all hands on deck. We're all trying to solve problems and make sure the experience is seamless for our customers. Our first issue that we get is a customer unable to sign in. So let's try to log in as that customer and see if we can figure out what's going on for her. So we click on login, and there's our user's credentials. We just happen to have them. We'll go ahead and click login. And as you can see, our user's locked out, and we need to get them unlocked. But again, as a new person, I have no idea how to do that, and there's no way to do it within the admin. So let's head over to our notebooks and see if we can find a way to solve that problem. Back to our notebooks here. Within notebooks, we have these folders that you can create, and each folder can contain a notebook. It's a great way for organizing our notebooks and keeping track of all of our tickets. So in this case, we have a user who's locked out. So we go to our users folder, and inside there, we see a notebook called user lockout. That seems like a great starting point for this. So let's open that up and see what it looks like. All right, so let's start reading and see if we can resolve this issue for this customer. If a user inputs their password multiple times incorrectly, their account gets locked out. Run this query to see all locked out users. Okay, that makes sense. Let's run the query and see what we get. So in this case, I've run it, but it doesn't know which database I want to execute this script against, this query. So we get a list of our recent connections, and you're also able to save connections as well. But in this case, I'm looking for my identity server. So I'll click on my identity server. It'll preload all the information for me since I already have it saved and I've recently connected. I'll hit connect, and it's going to connect to that server and execute my query all at the same time. And we can see again, here's our results from our query that was executed. And we can see, in fact, that Jill is locked out. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what's the next step? How do we unlock her? Let's go down to the next line. Set the lockout end to null to remove the password lockout. That makes sense. And there's a query already written for us. All we need to do is fill in that ID. So let's grab Jill's ID here. Let's copy it. We'll drop it in there. And then let's just go ahead and execute. And as you can see, one row affected, very quick and painless. And lastly, just to make sure, let's run that password lockout query one more time, just to ensure that she's no longer locked out. So we're going to run that. And as you can see, she's no longer locked out, at least according to the database. Now, what I really want to showcase here is just how incredibly simple this was to unlock a user by simply following basic steps. Read the instruction, execute the code, view the results. Everything is shown in a single place. It's that easy. Let's head back to the website just to make sure that Jill can, in fact, sign in. Here she is. Go back to login. And there's her email again. We'll hit login one more time. And as we can see, she's able to sign in. Simple and painless. Just for my team to review this, especially as a new person, I'm going to go ahead and save all of these results and put them into a separate branch, a Git branch in particular. And that's going to be available for my team to review at any point. It'll be stored in source control. All the results will be saved. Everything you see right here will be saved in a JSON format available for the team to review at any time. So we'll first start with a save. As you can see, this little red dot, or sorry, gray dot says it's not saved. So we're going to Control S to save that. Perfect. And as I'm sure you may have saw, there is a little icon here that just popped up, this one file changed. We'll click on that. This is our source control window. We can actually click on the file itself and see the diff between what the file looked like and the changes that I've made. And those changes are really just the results in particular. We can scroll down and you can actually see how it's laid out in JSON format within the file. So that's saved. Let's go ahead and create that branch just so the team can review at a later date. So we'll click down here on our branches. We'll click that. We'll create a new branch. Let's call it incident-814- or actually user lockout. All right. We'll go ahead and enter. That creates our new branch and switches for us. We'll go ahead and put our message for our commit message. Updated, actually, let's say, yeah, updated user lockout to null for Jill. All right, we'll go ahead and commit that message, and then we can push that up once we're ready. Nice and easy. So now that we've completed our first incident, let's work on to a more complicated incident. We're feeling a little confident now. So while we were fixing this one, an even bigger incident came in, and you may have saw it when we were looking on the website. Our items in our catalog are showing incorrect prices, in particular these t-shirts and hoodies. They're showing $12 million. No one's buying $12 million t-shirts and hoodies. That sounds like an incredible hoodie. So we need to get this fixed. Let's see if we have a notebook that can help us with that. So let's go back to our Azure Data Studio. We'll go back to our main branch just because we don't want to make any changes to that initial incident. Let's go and switch. All right, and we'll go back to our notebooks. And in this case, we're having a catalog problem. Our catalog is showing incorrectly. So let's open our catalog folder. And oh, look, we have a catalog issues notebook. Let's open that guy up and let's see what it says. So our eShep on web offers 12 products. When the page loads, there should be 12 different items. The following query will return all items that should be shown. That makes sense to me. Let's run the query and see what we get. Let's go ahead and execute that. And once again, it's prompting me to know which server it wants to execute that query against. Well, in this case, we're going to our catalog server. Don't need the identity anymore. So we'll click on that and connect. And actually, I do want to point out as well, each individual notebook can actually connect to a different server. So you're able to have multiple connections, one per notebook, and able to execute that code to 2 different servers. So under our catalog issues, we executed our code, and here are our results. Let's scroll down and take a look. Scroll to the right, and we can see, the price is showing incorrectly in the database. Must have been fat-fingered or some crazy system flaw. That seems simple enough. Let's see if we can fix that together. So we'll keep scrolling down our notebook and we realize, oh, we're at the bottom of the notebook. Well, we still need to get this fixed, so let's see if we can fix it together. So obviously the first thing we need to do is we need to update that database and get those records updated. So we'll go ahead and come back up to our code cell, add a new code cell below, click on that, and there it is. And in this case, I have this query pre-written, so I'm just going to copy and paste it in. But it is a simple update statement, nothing too special. And we do wrap it in a transaction block just to make sure we don't host the database. So begin transaction, update catalog, set price to $12, where the price is $12 million. That makes sense. And I usually start with a rollback first, or actually I should say I always start with a rollback first, just to make sure that I don't make a change that I can no longer roll back. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 records that need to be updated. Let's run our script, and we see 7 rows were affected. Perfect. So we'll go ahead and change that from a rollback to a commit statement. There we are, and let's go ahead and execute that. And just for posterity and just for our record keeping for our team to review at a later date, I'm going to grab that query we ran previously. I'm going to add a new code cell again. We'll drop that down in there, and we'll run it one more time just to prove we did, in fact, update the records. So now when our team does our team review, we can see at the beginning, I ran a query. I had these results, which clearly were wrong. We can see the update statement that was executed. We can see the results of that update statement. We can see that I ran the same query a second time to verify my results. Now, before we go check our database, let's actually go look at the website just to make sure the website is showing the correct values. And then we'll go ahead and document our issue. So we'll go back to our website. Let's refresh the page. And as we can see, those prices are now showing correctly, $12. So we can resolve our incident, let our marketing team know, and everyone's happy. They're able to shop again. So let's document our notes, though, just to put our notes to say what we did, why we did it, and kind of let our team know, as opposed to just forcing them to just read the code. So we'll click here on our update statement. Oops, here we are. Click that, and we'll go ahead and insert text above this time. And we'll say updated price for catalog items to $12, where a price was set to $12 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, perfect. And again, as you can see, we're seeing that awesome preview of our text as we're writing. Go ahead and save that. And then lastly, we'll put one more text just to say what we're doing with this guy. So click, insert text above, reran initial query to verify price was updated correctly. Awesome. We can just click out, automatically saves for us. And it looks like the notebook has not been saved. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a file save this time. File save. And with that saved, we have our one change in our source control. Let's get this committed so our team can review it later. So we'll create a new branch again. And in this case, I'm using this specific format for branches. Of course, you can use whatever format you like, whatever's easiest for you and your team. So we'll create a new branch off of master. We'll call it incident-814-catalog price fix. Enter. That creates our new branch. Here's our code changes. Again, we can see here's the changes in the notebook through a JSON format with the results saved. We'll go ahead and put in our message, updated catalog with correct price. We'll commit that, and we'll get that saved and pushed out for our team to review later. So just to recap, on the most simple form, I'm able, as a new person who doesn't know the system, who doesn't understand the structure or the way it works, to handle on-call issues from a simple system, like a user locked out, to unlocking the user, to letting them sign in again, to something more complex without documentation, starting from how does something work to how can I fix it using basic SQL knowledge, and then just verifying it. All of my results are saved in a single place, and that can be sent directly to my team for review at a later date. There we go. Perfect. So let's head back to our demo and see what else we have going on. Perfect. Get my little pointer there. All right. So just to recap, notebooks are an excellent tool for improving the incident response experience, regardless of a team's process. They are perfect for containing documentation and code that can be executed to resolve high-priority incidents quickly and consistently. In addition, they store the results for follow-up and track all changes made through source control. Well, how do they improve the experience? They allow us to diagnose these issues quickly within a single place, within the notebook. We're allowed to execute that code directly from that notebook, save the results within the document, improve the documentation with source control, and onboard new responders quickly through better documentation, improving the overall experience. Everything lives in one place, which is why you should use Jupyter Notebooks. Are there any questions?
Rob, you had a question. Would you mind asking it directly? Because I'm not sure I had the right context.
I was hoping you were just going to sort of ask that it was a generic question. So my question is, Justin, you used a branching source control thing. I don't really understand what that is. Why did you need to use a different branch? Could you not have just put everything into master?
In this case, we used a new branch each time because we wanted to save those results. If we had used master or our main branch, those results would have been saved for everyone, and they would have effectively been lost if someone was to run that same notebook a second time. So we're trying to, using branches, keep a record of each change or each result set on a one-to-one with our incidents themselves.
Now I have a question. Was that question planted?
It definitely was not. It definitely was not planted.
Yeah, I had a question, Justin. In this kind of situation, do you have any guidelines for, adding security for the users, or, let's say I'm a new user, but I've got a troublesome streak and a smattering of SQL knowledge.
Specifically for security. Oh, that's a great question, actually. Let's go back really quick, and I can show you what that would, how that would help. So in here, you're talking specifically about when you connect to the server, maybe not having like an admin user or a super user that could modify things.
Yeah.
When you actually connect to the server, you actually have a choice here. You use, in my case, I'm using Windows Authentication because this is hosted locally. But you could also use a SQL login where specific users just have their permissions restricted on the server itself. We're leaning on the servers for their authentication and their authorization.
Perfect. Rob is back with another question. He wants to know, how do you convert existing runbooks to the notebook format?
My team actually has been working on this. One of the simplest ways we've been doing is really just copy and pasting. So for example, let's actually do that really quick. We'll create a new notebook here. And let's say it's this one exactly. Let's say we have our catalog issues. We'll create a new text. So we create a new text cell, and we could just drop in absolutely everything in here. Because if you have this in a OneNote or a Word document or a text document, anything like that, chances are you have this all in a single place, kind of like this. And so what you would do in this case is copy all of it, drop it into a single text cell, which would look very similar to its initial starting point. The nice part again is if you have the markdown, you'll keep your formatting. From here, you really can just start breaking it down. So we'll go ahead and copy our code cell here, and we'll just create a new code cell. Drop it below, boom, there it is. And then we can grab our text cell, click here, add a new text above, and drop it in. And now that that information is there, we can go ahead and edit our existing cell, get rid of those two pieces, just like that. And maybe we'll just add some formatting here. Let's say H1, and there we are. And boom, we were very quickly and easily, able to convert those. Now, with that said, if you have a lot of files and you don't want to do them manually, you can absolutely do this programmatically. It's simple string manipulation. The notebooks themselves really are just JSON files. So if we look at an actual notebook, oops, save that. Oh, I have to save it. Conversion notebook. And we'll save that. And that will show up in my source control. Perfect. So here's really what it looks like under the hood. And a lot of this, because it's a JSON format, can be generated programmatically. Cell types are code, source. It might be a little bit complicated initially, but if you are converting hundreds or thousands of documents, it would make sense to do it programmatically compared to doing it manually. But in either case, fairly straightforward.
Great. Okay, one more question here from Klaus. He wants to know if there's kind of a session context in notebooks, i.e., can we declare variables in a SQL cell and reuse in the next cell? Or when in PowerShell, import a module and use that in next cells. So you won't be surprised to hear that Rob has already answered to the PowerShell piece. But if you could speak to the SQL piece of that.
That's a great question. I believe so. We could try testing it. Let's see. Let's go back to our, we had our notebook, our Python notebook, or let's create a new one. Let's create here a new code cell. And we'll say x equals 5, and then print x. Oh, let's make sure we're doing it in Python, of course. Oops, run. And there's 5. Let's create a new code cell. Insert code below. Print x again. And let's see if we get F5 again. Yes, we do. So yeah, I would say yes. Through trial and error.
Great. And no issues with SQL variable declaration?
I don't believe so.
Presumably.
We can try testing that as well really quick here. So let's do declare x int equals 5, select x, and we'll run that. Oh, we have to connect to a server. That's our catalog server. All right, there's our 5, and then we'll come down here. And we'll do it again, select at x. Run.
Oh.
So in SQL, it is not.
Good to know.
That is a great question and a great takeaway. I will let my team know. And we can get that worked on.
Great question. All right. So we have, let's see, another question from Basil. Since this demo is about live site investigations, does this method support log analysis data stores like Azure Data Explorer?
That is coming very soon, actually. I don't know if we have an official release date, but it is very soon.
Justin, do you want to put your final slides up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
There's my contact
So, yeah.
information.